So God put down a bow into the sky. Not a ribbon, but a bow, a sign of weapon. The sign was a sign of eternal peace and love, a sign of a true relationship with creation, where flaws and mistakes are just part of the package. Today's reading from Genesis is a beautiful story that falls on the tail end of a horrific one. You know, I remember the story as a child, but I don't quite remember how horrific the story was until I was a student at UNC Chapel Hill, and I was going to Chapel of the Cross, and I was a four-year-old Sunday school teacher, and this lesson came up. Noah and the flood. It was horrifying. How do you tell 4-year-olds the story of a God who destroys God's creation? Well, fortunately for me, I was with a very gifted storyteller and co-teacher, and I always will remember how she retold the story that day. She told the story to be one of a God who loved God's creation and wanted to be in relationship with God's creatures. But they would forget God and reject God. And rejection after rejection, grief bubbled up in God. And God began to cry and despair and to dream of starting over, much like an artist looking at something that is only 1/10 of the spark of creativity that inspired the action to begin with. Very less than satisfied. Then grief and anger and pain took over, and tears became a raging flood that destroyed what was beautiful, even though it was flawed. But fortunately, not everything was destroyed. Noah was one of those people who never abandoned God. And so Noah, with God, built a huge boat for all of humankind and for humans and animals, and the rainbow. The rainbow is a sign that no matter how much rejection or hurt, that God would never destroy creation again. It's a story of acceptance and true love. Not conditional love. Only if you're good, creation, will I continue to be in your favor. But the love that accepts people for who they are, the flaws for what they are. True love. What reminded me to think of that gifted storyteller co-teacher that I had was at the end of the story, after telling all of this, one of the boys raised his hand, 4-year-old raised his hand and said, "I know why the world was flooded." Well, when a 4-year-old tells you they know why the world is flooded, it would behoove us to ask more about that, right? And so he proudly said, well, it's because their daddy didn't put gutters on the roof. So this child was clearly reminded of how his dad had fixed the gutters on the roof and had saved the house from flooding. And if only all of the world had proper gutters on their houses, the whole world would have been saved. I love 4-year-olds. Lent is a time of 40 days of fasting, reflecting on where we fall short, where we tripped up and forgot God. It's a time where we're supposed to uncover and recover what God was, that original relationship between God and God's creation. I wonder if we spent these next 40 days really working on truly recovering and understanding that the very center of creation is the love that God has sown into it. That unconditional love. At the very center of all creation, a promise made evident in the rainbows in the sky that we are made of love and we are built to love. Yes, there are flaws. Yes, we do sin. Yes, we do get sidetracked and forget how much we are loved and forget how to love. That's what 40 days are supposed to be about. May these 40 days be a time where we uncover, recover, and remember the core truth that creation is created by love, that we are created by love. And that is the very center of who we are. My husband and I have been watching a favorite show that on Netflix called The Repair Shop. I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch it. I highly recommend it. It's perfect for a day when you're feeling a little blue or down. It's this repair shop set in England where people bring in treasures, usually antiques that are given from a prior generation that has had a fall or maybe a little loved on too much that it has completely started to fall. So teddy bears with one ears, or chairs with 3 legs, or toy cars that no longer wind up, lots and lots of clocks that have fallen off of shelves, and porcelain pieces that have shattered. And they bring these expert crafters to clean and restitch and recover and to glue and to restore these pieces that are of love. Reminders of a prior generation loving enough to share something that they loved. And so when the objects are finished, they don't look like they're completely brand new. If you look closely, you see the cracks of where it had been broken, or you can see that the bear's ear was restitched by another part of himself, like the stomach. You can see the scars of its hard-loved life, but its original beauty and the thing that brought joy possibly to the first owners have been uncovered. I would love to think of this Lent being a time where we would look at our lives and find ways to restore it, to put ourselves in the hands of that miraculous creator and crafter, and to ask what needs a little bit of cleaning, what needs a little bit of restitching, what needs some fresh air, so that we, at the end of the 40 days, can recover, restore a deeper, loving part of ourselves. The selves that the Creator has asked us to be. Now, we won't be perfect. And we believe in a God that wouldn't want it any different than it to be ourselves, full of flaws. We won't be completely restored like those objects, but we'll be beautiful all the same. Lori last week talked about how these stories are about deep truths in our lives. Today's story is about God being a creator of love, and that we are creatures of love. Sometimes we get a little sidetracked. Sometimes we go down some not so great pathways. But this is a time of the church where we restore, redirect, clean, recover, be a part, remember our part of being part of that creation of love. Let us remember that we are people of love, called to love. And may we find the beauty at the end of the 40 days, much like those beautiful objects in the repair shop. Perhaps you just need another gutter. Who knows? Amen.